Hey guys, I'm back home. As you can see that I'm back in my usual setting, and today we're going to be doing a Pygmy Puff cosplay tutorial. This is a full tutorial, so all of the bits that we're going to be making, all going to be explained here. It's going to be the most in-depth tutorial I've done, so bear with me, and this will be great for Halloween coming up and for any Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them events that you go to, anything like that that's coming up in the future. This will be a go-to costume, something a bit different, so I hope you guys like it. For this cosplay you're going to need a few different items. The first and most important is this. Now this is just pink fur. You're going to need about a metre of that, so you can get that from pretty much any fabric stores. Then you're going to need this, I think this is like A3, a bit bigger than that, card in light pink, 2 sheets of felt for the front of the piece, which they can be bought really cheaply from craft stores. I've got 2 just to be on the safe side, you may only need 1. Some big googly eyes, some pink thread, some scissors, a hot glue gun, and of course your own little Pygmy Puffs to model them off. The first part of this that we're going to be making is the front of the face. For the Pygmy Puffs little face, we're going to be doing a sort of stuffed, almost a cuddly toy version of their face, which is what we're going to be using the felt for. Now for this, I didn't mention in the start, but you're going to need some toilet paper. It's a really inexpensive and easy way to stuff things. This was a test run that I did the other day, which is really bad. Stuffing it with other stuff is just a waste of money. So just stuff it with toilet paper, because I'm pretty sure everyone will have that in their homes. So let's get to work. Now you're going to want to take your felt and fold it in half, because you're going to need sort of 2 sides of this in order to make the main shape. Now you're going to want to cut out, well, you should probably draw with a pencil first, which I'm not going to do because it worked out fine in my test run. You're going to want to have a sort of oval type shape, pretty much an oval, and you want it to be not too big but fairly big. Once you finish up cutting, you should be left with these 2 sort of oval shapes. It doesn't matter if they're sort of rough and not really right, because we're just going to be stitching them together and it's not the end of the world. So what you're going to want to do now is place them so that they're matching up. Put the side that you want to be facing the outside facing the inside, because we're going to be turning it inside out once we finish stitching it up. And what we're going to do now is you're going to take your needle and thread and your pale pink cotton, thread your needle, cut off, you know, substantial amount but not too much. Thread your needle, and we're just going to stitch around the outside. If you have a sewing machine, feel free to whiz this through on the sewing machine. You want to leave a little bit of a gap just on one of the sides that you've got room to stuff it, and then turn it back inside out. But we are just I'm going to show you hand stitching, because I know not everyone's got a sewing machine, and hand stitching I think for this type of thing is just way easier. So you want to take your thread. A lot of people knot their thread first. I don't. I just pull it through and then do a couple of stitches in the same place to sort of keep it moving, but feel free to knot it if you want. Now if you've never sewn before, there are probably a ton of better tutorials on YouTube on how to do a sort of basic running stitch. I'm not very good at showing you this. You can either do a running stitch or a blanket stitch. In my practice I did a running stitch initially, but then I had to go over it with a blanket stitch. I think I'm going to blanket stitch the whole thing. So the way a blanket stitch works, I'll try and show in as much detail as I can. When you thread it, you want to have a sort of loop. So you're pulling it through that loop to get that sort of effect, and I'll do a couple to show you how it's supposed to look. Like I said, I'm really not the best person to be showing you how to do this, so if you are unsure and if my tutorial is really not very clear, go check out another blanket stitch tutorial. But it should look something a little bit, my camera won't focus, like that, and it's basically you're doing a stitch next to it, and while you're pulling the needle and the thread through, you're making sure it goes after the thread that you've already got hanging there, so it creates a sort of loop that it goes through, if that makes any sense at all. So once you've sewn pretty much all the way around, you should have a little gap here, and now you're going to want to turn this inside out. If your stitches aren't that strong like mine, just be careful at this point. You don't want to end up ripping any of the work you just did. Fingers crossed that won't happen. This can be a little bit tricky. Feel free to use, knitting needles. I've used in the past the end of scissors to sort of, depending on what your shape's like, you may need a bit of help just getting those end bits turned the right way. For the stuffing, so you've got this little gap, it's turned the right way so it looks sort of neat around the edges, hopefully. And you're just going to want to take small amounts at a time of your toilet paper and just put it in the hole. choose the side that you want the face to actually be on, because once you've got the basic things stuffed, you're going to want to have sort of a bit of a protruding part for the nose, which I'll be able to show you better than I can explain it. Because in my practice run of this the other day, I sort of did an add-on bit for a nose, and I just don't think it worked at all. I'll show you guys. Adding on this front bit didn't look good at that. It was obviously terrible. Now that this is mostly stuff, I know it looks really deformed at the moment, but that's because we haven't sewn up this top bit. This is going to be the front, so I'm going to add in some extra stuffing to give this sort of like a bump at the front, if that makes sense. So there we have sort of the nose. Now you're just going to want to do blanket stitch over this to close up the top. Then we're ready to start sort of working on the face, doing the ears and that kind of thing. Now to embroider on the nose, I'm using a sort of peachy coloured embroidery thread and an embroidery needle. Now this isn't always necessary. I didn't mention it to begin with because you can just use the normal thread that you were using, that's the pink of this, and just double it up to it's a bit thicker. I'm just going for this purely because I had it lying around in my sewing box, and I just think a bit thicker and a slightly different colour might give a better effect. This, I'm not going to be using any sort of particular pattern or stitching as such. I'm just going to go directly into the centre. Now the Pygmy Puffs, they have a sort of bow-shaped nose that's sort of like an X actually. I didn't explain that right. Sort of what I did on this one, but not really. It is like an X. It's like well, to me it looks like a bow, but it arguably looks like an X as well. Just doing some loose stitches to make this sort of front nose bit, and then I'll go off to do the sort of sides in a second. And then I'm just doing a single stitch off into the corner, and I'm going to do that 4 times, so down into that sort of X shape to give the nose. So that's what I've got for the nose pretty much. Now the nose is done, you're going to want to be doing the ears. You can just use the leftover scrap that you've got from your main one, depending how big you made it. Make sure you get the same, just do the same as we did earlier, fold it over, and you just want to you're going to want to cut out a sort of teardrop shape. Going to want to fold them in a bit like that to get the sort of shape. Now that you have your 2 teardrops, you're just going to want to decide whereabouts on the head you want to place them. I'm going to do mine just in the corners here. Now we have the 2 ears sewn on, and it's not looking too bad, so now it's time for the hot glue gunning. If you don't have a hot glue gun, then PVA might work. You're going to want to take your hot glue gun. Mine's pink because it matches my theme going here. I already stuck on the first eye purely because I hadn't realised that this had reached optimum temperature. I went to test it out on the eye and it came straight out. Did I just get burnt? I think I did. Be careful with your hot glue guns, guys. Hate to sound like a mum, but be careful. I'm placing mine just to the side of the nose because they are, I think, more sideways. They're not really directly on top of it. Just want to squeeze it in a sort of circular manner. Oh god, this is terrifying. When I was younger, I was in secondary school, so I wasn't that much younger, and someone dropped a hot glue gun on my ankle and we had to pull it off with the glue attached to my skin, and I've still got a scar, so I'm use them with trepidation. I mean, he's a bit wonky looking, but I think it's kind of cute, don't you think, guys? I mean, I would agree. So you've got your card, and you're going to want to make 2 circles out of this. I've cut my card in half, that way I can put them on top of each other to make sure they get exactly the same size, and it's just way more easy to manage. So I think if it's covering, because the straps are going to come here, I think that's a good size, and I think the flat tops work because you're going to be wearing pink underneath for the end of this cosplay, so I think this is a good size, and I'm going to use this as a stencil for my next sheet, so I have exactly the same going at the back. You should have 2 pieces, same size, that look like this. Now for the fun part with fur. So you're going to take this, and it's easy just to get a metre of it. I will warn you though, right, this is all over my bed, just clumps and clumps of pink fur. What you're going to want to do is work out how much you're going to need. You'll want to use what you've already cut out as a stencil. You're going to be covering the board, so you're going to need to take your hot glue gun. You want to do it in steps, so gluing it bit by bit is probably the way forward. I'm going to do this sort of bit by bit because if you do it the way I did, your glue's going to run out and it's just not going to be fun. So I'm just going around the edges, gluing, going in the middle. Now that your piece is mostly glued on, now you're going to want to do exactly the same to the back. What we're going to do now is be attaching the Pygmy Puff face to the centre. Look, there we've got our Pygmy Puff. So you're going to need to hot glue gun this. I'm guessing I've got a fur in my mouth. Taking my hot glue gun and praying that there is enough in here to glue my Pygmy Puff to the centre, and you're going to want to just slap that right in the middle of your fur and hope. I might actually do a few stitches in the back of mine just to keep it more secure and firm, because I can stitch into this fabric. It's looking pretty sweet, guys. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm impressed. So now that both your sides are complete, you're going to want to do the straps. I'm sellotaping the straps down, but you can hot glue gun them if you, like me, plan yours better and don't use up all of your glue. So I might cross strap the back, thinking about it, so it's in across the back and straight at the front, just for a bit more security. This is it on. I'm really impressed with it. It's looking cool. I might add in 2 pieces of ribbon at the sides just to keep it a little bit more in, but I'm so happy with how it's turned out. For what to wear underneath this, anything pink. I'm going to go rummage around, see what I can find, so I can try on the whole thing for you guys and show you the completed look. But this is essentially it. Now, my original idea for underneath this outfit was going to be, I've got this like kind of really bright pink like shirt type thing, but this was all I could find. I've searched the house for it, and then I've got on white jeans and my pink platform Converse. So I'll show you the whole thing together now, and I've also put a little bow in my hair. I'd probably wear space buns with this outfit, but you know, I'm just messing. Is pretty much the finished look, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out actually. Way more Pygmy Puff like than I anticipated, so I'm really pleased, and I hope you guys had fun watching this. And if you do attempt any of this, send me photos. You guys will probably be able to do it way better than I can. And just as a side note, I initially sellotaped these straps. Instead, I've poked holes in the cardboard and tied the straps on because they kept coming off with the sellotape. I mean, if you hot glue gun them, that probably wouldn't happen, but I just think tying them is probably a lot safer in the long run, and it's what I did for my Taylor Swift signs. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and that it was somewhat informative.